It's crime fighting time.
Welcome back to the 80s Toy Museum, and today we're taking a look at an actual 80s toy. This isn't a modern update of a classic. It's not a reissue. It's not a KO. It's an actual 80s toy from the 80s. We're taking a look at the leader of C.O.P.S, Central Organization of Police Specialists. It's Agent Baldwin P. Vess, whose codename is Bulletproof. And let's kick it off with a 360 view of Agent Vess. Came out in 1988. And I'll have some size comparisons in a few minutes with some other vintage toys as well as modern toys. But if you can remember back to before G.I. Joe Classified came out, a lot of people were excited about having Joes that were just a little bigger and a little more posable. And I was happy to see G.I. Joe make it to the 6-inch scale, but I grew up on C.O.P.S. In the late 80s, my interest in G.I. Joe trailed off a little bit. I'd still buy a few guys here and there, but I really got into C.O.P.S. Loved the figures, a lot more than the show. And these are just basically upsized G.I. Joes. So Bulletproof comes with a removable cloth jacket, comes with a suitcase with a handcuff on it, which opens up and has some stuff in there. It comes with a gun. Like all other C.O.P.S toys, it's a cap firing gun. And unfortunately, these did not come with a stand. So I've got him hooked up with just one of these clear stands. Any G.I. Joe stand will work as well. But I think the G.I. Joe stands just look a little too small on C.O.P.S figures. So I like these little clear circular ones. And like vintage G.I. Joe Real American Hero figures, C.O.P.S came with their own custom artwork as well. There's a shot of Bulletproof. There's an interesting design choice. On the show, he's all covered up. He's got a shirt and pants. If he sustains some damage, you can see some of the metal peeking through. For the toy, rather than just having him all completely exposed metal, giving him a removable shirt as well, they just decided to go half and half, and so the shirt is just cut in a really unnatural way there. And they come with these caps, which all of the guns can fire. It's got a little subtitle, Federal Agent, just like the Real American Hero Joe's. Card has some damage on there. And on the back, get a look at some of the other figures that are available. C.O.P.S on the top. And some Crooks on the bottom. Buttons McBoom Boom was always my favorite Crook. He just seems like he's inspired by Clint Eastwood. There's some instructions on how to fire the caps. And then you get an ID card. Very similar to the Real American Hero ID cards. And let's read through this one. Got a code name just like Joe's. Codename Bulletproof. Department of Origin, Federal Department of Investigation. Badge number, classified. Just like Snake Eyes. Little picture there. And the bio reads, Inspector Vess came so close to putting the Big Boss, interesting he's referred to as the Big Boss. On the show it's always just Big Boss. Away with a federal indictment that he got gunned down in an alley by some of the boss's henchmen for his efforts. Thanks to 21st century microsurgery and cybernetics. Alright, C.O.P.S does take place in the future. Cybernetics Bulletproof was back on his feet with a stainless steel torso and a grudge the size of the national debt. I don't know if this one was written by Larry Hama, but possibly. It's kind of got the same style. He doesn't let his determination to put away the Big Boss Cloud, his legendary deductive powers, or compromise his position as founder of the C.O.P.S organization and chief of investigations for the team. And just like the Joe file cards, it's got a quote. He's bulletproof, all right. He's also shock resistant and watertight to 200 meters. His mind's like a Swiss watch, a premier criminologist, able to quickly and systematically determine the who, what, when, where, and hows of cases. Maybe that's why he's such a good detective. He lines up all those facts and clues like columns of figures in an accountant's ledger and makes them all balance out. So, not really a man of action, according to his file card. He's more of a thinker, deductive reasoning, a detective. Let's take a look at some of his accessories. First of all, his mysterious suitcase, which is handcuffed to his hand so that if someone tries to nab it, where the case goes, bulletproof goes. It's actually really easy to remove. The plastic they used on this is awesome. Look how bendy that is. That's not going to break or snap. Very bendy, even after all these years, 1988, and still hasn't gone brittle. And the case opens up. Maybe I should get powder keg to check this before I open it up, or tripwire. And just some detailing in here. Just some electronics looking stuff. That looks like a weapon sculpted on there. Some kind of pistol. It's important, whatever it is. It's top secret. And then his gun, which I always thought this was a little strange, because this is the part that you pull in order to make the cap fire. The cap feeds in through here, and the barrel of the gun is actually the part that you pull. You can actually, looks like you can lock it into place, and then you just tap it, and that's what causes the cap firing sound. So you can just pull like that and have them fire, or lock them into place, and it's kind of awkward to unlock it once it's locked. It's kind of like an oversized looking pistol, small submachine gun type of thing. It's got a scope on it. And then the figure itself, the final accessory, is a jacket. And taking a quick peek at the other C.O.P.S figures in the background, I don't see anyone else with actual soft goods, as they call them. Soft goods clothing. And one of the things I've seen in these, I don't see Bulletproof very much anymore at toy shows, but years ago, before the value of these things just skyrocketed, I'd see them here and there, and the most common thing with the jacket, if it was included, is that it would be filthy. It's a lighter tan coat, so it's really easy to get all dirty. This one looks incredible. It just looks mint condition. Whoever had this took really good care of it. A little bit of detailing on it as well. Just some paint applications on the cloth, the buttons, pockets. Wish it was a little longer, because he's got a long coat on the show and it looks great. So over the years, I've looked at other toy lines, trying to find something that's similar to this, just a little longer. Maybe I don't know, a Turtles disguise trench coat or a Superman trench coat. None of them seem to really fit. Thought about getting one of those Marvel Legends Gambit trench coats. Might be a little too big. These guys are kind of an awkward size. And the coat does come with like a belt. It's attached on the back. When I put it back on, I'll tie that up for you. But just to give you a look at the articulation of these C.O.P.S figures, it's exactly like a G.I. Joe. It's exactly the same swivel here. The one thing that the C.O.P.S figures had that the Joes didn't have is wrist articulation. They actually twist at the wrist, which is cool and also bad, because I've had a few of these break at the wrist. You wouldn't think this would be a particularly weak joint, but those go for some reason. So if you've got some vintage C.O.P.S, careful, because the two spots I've seen break the most on C.O.P.S are the wrist and the elbow swivel. These break too for some reason. They just snap, no warning. Usually a Joe, you get that elbow crack to give you a warning that you're about to enter the danger zone. Same deal as a G.I. Joe. It's an O-ring. That's the original O-ring in there. Rubber band, pretty amazing. I've never replaced it. It's got some cool spats. I just love how C.O.P.S takes place in the future, but it has so many throwbacks to the past, the 30s, the 40s, the 20s even, gumshoes. It's such a cool blend of genres and styles. And how great would the torso have been if it was chrome? But they just went with silver. Probably in the long run, a good call. The silver paint can stand up to being played around with a lot better than the chrome can. But if these guys ever get reissued, I would love to see Bulletproof with chrome. Since the companies like to differentiate the reissues from the originals, that would be a really cool little upgrade even. And ball jointed neck like G.I. Joe's 85 and beyond. And really good range. A lot better than a G.I. Joe with a ball jointed neck. And let's get the coat back on him. So if you think the exposed cybernetics looks kind of goofy, the shirt is actually low enough that you can tuck the coat, grab the belt, and just simply tie it off. A little futzing required. You might have a little metal still poking through there, but he looks really bulky once you do tie the jacket off. So jacket's cool, but just kind of poofy. And according to the measuring tape, he is just about 6 inches. I thought he was quite a bit smaller than that. And here's a classified figure, and he is smaller than a classified figure. So even though we refer to classified as 6 inch, they're generally taller than that. 6.5. He's got a little stand here, but that's not adding all that much. The helmet too is adding a little bit. Just even side by side, the C.O.P.S figures generally look kind of runtish next to classified figures. And with a vintage G.I. Joe, another C.O.P, it's Shockwave. I always thought Shockwave would fit perfectly on C.O.P.S. And you can see just how much bigger C.O.P.S are than G.I. Joes. And this is what I mean when I was saying, hey, classified's great, but I'm not all that pumped because I already had supersized Joes in the 80s. They were fantastic. Yeah, just basically an upsized G.I. Joe. Coincidentally, both released in '88. Shockwave was also a 1988 figure. And Hasbro was just all over the place with their scale in the 80s. So they had the Joes, which were 3 3/4, and then they had the Visionaries, which for some odd reason were just ever so slightly bigger than a G.I. Joe, just slightly. But there's the Visionary next to a C.O.P, so quite a bit smaller again. And there's 2 awesome lines that tanked, and proof that profit is not a sign of skill. These are 2 of my favorite vintage toy lines, and neither of them were all that successful, but there's something to be said for the hidden gems. So it's taken way too long to take an individual look at a C.O.P.S figure, but there you go. That's Bulletproof from C.O.P.S. I've also, if you want to watch some more C.O.P.S stuff on the channel, I did a history of C.O.P.S, and someday we'll get around to doing the history of C.O.P.S, the Case of the Crooks edition someday. This has been a fun look at great vintage toy. I always get asked, where can I find this? By folks who aren't hardcore vintage toy collectors. The answer is always eBay. Because even going to vintage toy shows, these just don't really show up anymore. And even if they do, they're way too expensive. I'm really glad that I got so much of my stuff years ago, back before the prices skyrocketed, because vintage toy collecting is not really financially responsible these days. Pay those bills. Pay for those groceries first. All right, folks, thanks a lot for watching. Appreciate it. Until next time, Nerdmas Day.